to stand and to become your loving self at KMET 1490 AM ABC Radio Live. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist in full-time private practice. And today I'm offering you a program about human sexuality and relationships with my colleague and business partner and my very good friend, Dr. Robert Jaffe.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are here today, getting close to our 4th of July holiday. What we do on this program is we try to help you understand yourself better. And we are here to tell you that we are born into this world as our loving, authentic, true selves. We come in with many wonderful qualities. We come in open to new learnings. We come in curious about ourselves, curious about other people, curious about the world. Most of us come in emotionally available, meaning that we love to give and receive love to each other, and we come in honest. We actually don't know how to lie when we come in. That's something that's learned. We come in, most of us come in pretty confident. It's like, okay, we're here. Let's get on with it. We also have the ability to be compassionate. That's a natural ability that we're born with. And of course, we are all sexual beings. So we come in sexual, and we trust that the world will welcome us and give us most of what we need. And in some cases it does. And in some cases it gives us some of what we need. And in some cases we don't get enough of what we need. And so we need to learn that later on in life.
Exactly.
And so what we have in psychology, we call the good enough parent. The good enough parent means that the parent has matured within themselves so that they are able to give us as their children enough self-confidence, enough love, and enough compassion and caring so that we grow up feeling full enough so that we can then pass that on to our children and embody that within ourselves and affect other people in a positive way. So that's what we're here to do, is to help you guys learn how to do that.
Yes, and thank you for that introduction. What you just explored here in such a fine detail actually is totally related to the selected topic for today, for our first hour,
Okay.
which is about human sexuality, sexual health, and relationships. So this is how we are, the word is introduced to us. I mean, we come in with all these inner built, inner design, inner qualities that, that we come in as a human being, right? We come into this world. And then things happen to us.
Things happen.
Things happen. Whether knowingly or not or unknowingly, we are exposed to traumatic situations in our life.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these traumas, what we call them, large T traumas, like earthquake, or some sort of major sudden disaster, or situation such as loss of a loved one, loss of a job or divorce or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
which, they generally do not happen to everybody. But a good share of people, a good group of people do get those experiences of large T traumas.
Right.
However, it is per science, it is known and it is safe to say that majority of human beings face what is known as small T traumas,
Mm-hmm.
right? So small T traumas, in short, are the type of traumas that aid us to stay away from our loving, authentic, true self. And we go after, to becoming somebody that we can stay connected to a group of people, because that's what they want from us to be, which is a topic of codependency, which in the next hour, we're going to be talking about that.
Right.
So, excuse me. So I'm inviting all of you to please also join us on the second hour, because that's, we see how we can tie up these two subjects together. What happens because of the intensity and the frequency of small T traumas, and then how they gradually happen, and most of the time they are silently are happening. Many people don't realize that they have experienced small T traumas, such as being blamed, such as name calling, such as being bullied. And that actually happens within the family, right, among siblings, right, before we even go outside and play with other kids or with cousins, right? We witness our parents' argument. We witness our older siblings' argument. We witness our neighbors' argument, right? So those are, through those experiences, whether they are directly related to us or they are not related to us directly, we as children give meanings to them, right?
Yeah.
And these meanings, majority of the time, is about us. It's about who I am as a person, and then how safe am I in this world, and what do I need to do to stay safe, right? So then the message becomes about me ultimately, whether I'm a lovable person or I'm not, whether, I'm somebody that, I can achieve things or not, whether I can have a good relationship or not, whether I'm good enough or not, right? So as a result of a small T traumas, this is what happens ultimately. And because they are pervasive, that means across the life they follow us, right? We only build on top of them because we're not recognizing them. What we are not recognizing is the massive amount of, a small level of or pervasive level of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, right? So see, the cycle just continues to go on because we don't notice the small T traumas, and therefore we don't feel the need to process anything, right? And then we think life, that's how life is normal. This is the normalcy of life, right?
And it is normal to be traumatized, to have small T traumas within our culture and as well as within other cultures.
Right.
It is normal meaning common.
Common. It's so common,
yes.
And it's so deeply rooted that, and it is so generationally transferred that we don't see it, as abnormal. We think this is it. This is how people are. This is how life is, right? So therefore, that all that amount of, with every trauma, we have a PTSD coming next to that because they remain unresolved, right? So imagine by the time we get into a relationship, in a marriage, how much each partner has, the amount of PTSD and the negative experiences that they have had, which they bring that into the relationship together.
Right. And people don't realize it because it is so common and so normal. Even we in the profession can engage in things which are unhealthy because we're human beings as well, and we've been exposed to traumas that we haven't recognized and that we still carry within us. And I just wanted to share an experience that happened quickly over the weekend, which I mentioned to you about that my granddaughters were 3 years old. They just celebrated their third birthday over the weekend, and one of their cousins, a young woman around, came to their birthday party. And when she was leaving, she said to one of the girls, one of the 3-year-olds, "Can I have a hug goodbye?" and the 3-year-old was engaged in playing and wasn't paying attention to her. And she had her arms out, and she said her name, and she said, "Can I have a hug?" And and my granddaughter turned and looked at her and then continued playing. And so I said to my granddaughter, I said, "Your cousin is wanting a hug, and she came all this way, just to just to see you. You know, she doesn't live close by, and she's asking for a hug." And my daughter, my granddaughter's mother, she said, "Don't do that, Dad." And when she said that, I realized what I was doing, which was I was laying a guilt trip on her.
Right.
But I hadn't realized that I was doing that. But when my daughter said it, I did realize it. And I looked at my daughter and I said, "Oh, you're right. Okay." And
Right.
yeah, but and that of course is a small thing, but it's the beginning where you lay a guilt trip on a child, and then the child complies with you because it makes them feel bad about themselves, and they comply out of obligation rather than from their authentic true selves.
Exactly.
And of course, the more that happens, the more people lose touch with their authentic true selves and act from their false adapted selves.
Exactly. And that is, these are the beginning of meaning making for children by the time they hit age 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so all these messages, that's how they shape it into something about themselves, something negative about themselves.
Right.
So once a couple shape, once two people enter into a relationship, they basically, they are dealing every day with issues
Mm-hmm.
that without knowing and without being aware of,
Mm-hmm.
that the root cause of them are in their traumatic experiences in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that every day in my practice.
Mm-hmm.
Couples come in and they all pointing finger at each other. It's just like that.
Right.
And then, they just complain and they blame and they name call and they are hostile. They are angry at each other.
Mm-hmm.
They are demanding, and they always believe that it's the other person's fault.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening is that they're looking at the issues of life that they have, right, through the lens and practices in the past.
Right. Yeah, lens and practices of the past, and things, learning to be the way we are by the way we were treated and by observing our parents. Many times our parents treat us and act with each other in very healthy, loving ways, but also many times they don't. And to look at things, from an adult perspective, to see your parents, and I think most parents do love their children and do try their best, but it doesn't mean that everything that they do is good for the child. And I think the biggest problem that people have is feeling disloyal to their parents often, if they feel as though they're thinking negatively about their parents. But actually, the part of healthy parenting is allowing your child to be upset with you and to be angry with you, and validating their right to do that. It doesn't mean that they get their way all the time, but it means that you validate what they're feeling and that they have a right to their feelings, so that the child begins to recognize that their feelings matter.
Exactly. So when we come back after our commercial break, we're going to be talking more about what is known as trauma configurational reflex. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio Live. For those of you just tuning in, our discussion for this segment is about couples and trauma as part of human sexuality and sexual healthcare. We are looking at what are the red flags that they continue hunting couples from the past, and the unrecognized PTSD about it. and some of the issues that couples see in their current relationship actually has a connection with the past traumas, and couples are not aware of that. So the root cause is not recent. Actually, it's a result of much earlier experiences in life with a hidden PTSD that haunts each individual, and they show that to each other during their relationships.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on another thing that our listeners can recognize with the PTSD, and that is that we call them triggers.
Right.
Right? And a trigger means that the person, when you say a certain thing to them, or you bring up a certain topic, or you have a certain look that crosses your face, or you use a certain voice tone, the other person has a very strong negative reaction. And that's what a trigger is. And you know that when it happens to you, what is actually going on is that a certain probably small t trauma, sometimes a large t, but often a small t trauma, has come up in your in your subconscious. There's pain attached to it, and so you overreact to what's going on, and so that takes you out of the now moment. You're no longer your current age talking to whoever you're talking to. You're now a younger age going through that situation. But because it's subconscious, people don't recognize it, and so it gets enacted through their behavior, and that of course causes all sorts of problems in relationships, and especially in intimate relationships.
Exactly. And we would like to hear from you. We would like to know if you are able to connect to and relate to this subject that we are offering you for today. And how have you done problem solving? How have you become aware of it? Or you're not aware of it, right? So our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. And we would like to hear from you. And if you don't wish to contact us online here live, we understand. So please feel free to contact us privately, and our private contact information are listed at KMET webpage. So yes, so this is a very deep-rooted problem, and a very common and frequent problem.
Mm-hmm.
That I have witnessed in couples therapy and even in the individual therapy, where one member of the relationship comes to see me, but they don't want to include their partner. Mm-hmm. For a variety of reasons, mm-hmm. Right? So one of the reasons that I see that a partner who just shows up by himself or herself generally has to do with a profound sense of shame and guilt, and feeling bad about themselves. Mm-hmm. It is as though if they come and reveal more about themselves, their partner actually may leave them, mm-hmm. Right? Which actually it does happen. It does happen. So the more you know about a person, the more you understand, about the issue of a person, it creates actually a very unsafe environment, mm-hmm. to stay in the relationship, right? And therefore, and that's why,
You mean if it's being judged?
If it is being judged, right. Obviously. I mean, each person, they go and evaluate the circumstances, a relationship based on how much they can feel safe in it. Mm-hmm. So as part of that safety, obviously there is a level of judgment happening.
Right.
So as part of that judgment, right, if their judgment is that if I continue my relationship with this person, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to be happy, I'm not going to be successful, or something bad is going to happen to me, what would they do? They start to look elsewhere, or they're going to terminate the relationship, or they're going to go away, or they're going to continue to blame and argue, mm-hmm. Right? So right. Many things happen. Every person has a different type of reaction, mm-hmm. Right? And then some of these reactions are just based on their understanding of the situation. Some of it is kind of promoted by cultural factors. Some mm-hmm. of it is just a fear of, being unsafe, right? So each person, however they interpret their a given situation or a given, approach or attitude by their partner, uh, based on their evaluation and, level of judgment, they may stay or they may not stay. So we can certainly understand why only one person shows up, right? So one of the things that I do when that happens, and actually I have a new client that's exactly what happened. And then I ask him, what will happen if he invites his wife to join him? And then he said, he got alarmed and he said, are you kidding me, Mitra? If she knows some of the things that I'm saying here to you, she will definitely divorce me. And I'm here to restore my relationship, not to worsen that. So his belief is that if his wife knows more of his truth, she's going to get frightened and she's going to leave.
Right. And as you said, it could happen.
It could happen. Yes. Right. So, I mean, some of these, reactions are automatic because when this happens, we can see that how the other partner also, himself or herself, has had traumatic events.
Right.
And therefore is unable to tolerate and have an understanding for what they can do or what can happen.
Yeah, and I would add that to the extent that we feel as though we need to hide ourselves is to the extent that we have experienced trauma.
Right.
That our goal is to be transparent and to let other people see who we really are, and a lot. I get a lot of arguments sometimes when I bring this up, because how can you be transparent when the world isn't a safe place?
Right.
See.
Right.
And my response is,
which is a valid argument.
Of course, it's a valid argument. And my response is, we want to be transparent with the people who are safe to be transparent with. Right. And so, but the question, of course, is, who are we bringing into our lives, and are those people safe people? And if we are bringing into our lives people who aren't safe, that is our own that is our own responsibility, and why are we doing that?
Well, that is part of therapy.
Correct.
Right. That's a core part of one of the core part of therapy. That
Correct.
What makes us connect to people that they are unsafe to begin with. Right. Maybe that's all we know how to do.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So some of the responses that I see, in couples therapy related to this situation is that, in trauma, when trauma happens, usually people have, the three classic response to it: fight, flight, or freeze. Right.
Right.
So when I process the situation with a couple or with one member who attends to therapy, when I ask them, well, how do they respond to the situation? They see it, they say, oh, I fight back all the time. So that then I can learn that this is how they managed to survive during the actual trauma that they have.
Right.
Or I just walk away. I just silently walk away, or I just, don't say anything and walk away, or I just don't say anything to begin with. So staying silent also is
well, staying silent is either an avoidance or freeze mechanism.
Yeah, or a freeze mechanism. Yes. And then, some people, they say automatically, I freeze, I don't move, I don't blink, I don't say anything, so that tells me that whatever trauma they have had, in the past, this has been their response to it.
Right.
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 So from that perspective, we can show them that, how they're doing the same thing and how they're repeating the same pattern from the past, to now. Right.
Right.
And, but also when a couple, comes in with, blaming, name calling, finger pointing, assumptions, judgment, anger towards each other, it also an indication that this each member of this relationship, the couple, they have not gone through, a healthy differentiation on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is when small t trauma, the pervasive nature of that, because the person is constantly in a survival mode, right?
Right.
They never get a chance to differentiate from their own, family of origin.
Yeah.
It's just trauma built on top of trauma, a small t trauma on top of a small t trauma, and getting used to PTSD, getting used to the discomfort, and believing that this is normal and this is how people stay connected.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't go through the process of who I am as a person. They don't get a chance to develop, to nurture, to go through personal growth of their authentic true self, right? And then their interpersonal skills, how they relate to other people, just kind of becomes, I don't know if I can say underdeveloped. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but obviously, it doesn't go through the maturation of individuation.
Right. And so just to remind our listeners, individuation happens through emotional maturity.
Right.
And emotional maturity means that you have models. Let's say you grow up with a mom and a dad, and they are your role models. Now you may see things about them as you're growing up and say, "Oh, I never want to be like that," and then you rebel against it. Or you may see things about them, and you go, "Yeah, I really like that," and then you want to be like them. But either way, they're role models. And so if you go the opposite of where they are, they're still role models. You're just going in the opposite direction. So you're going 180 degrees the other way. And if you're like them, then you're going 180 degrees towards them. But who are you? You are not supposed to be exactly like them, nor are you supposed to be exactly the opposite of them.
Yeah.
But because you haven't been allowed, or maybe you've been actively disallowed to find out who you really are by through the expression of your feelings and getting your feelings understood and validated, what happens then is you never mature emotionally. So people grow up and they have matured intellectually. They have certainly matured physically. And so we're walking around in bodies that are adult bodies. We are able to perform adult tasks, but emotionally, we haven't matured into the adults that are equal to our age. So we can be a 50-year-old adult in a 15-year-old emotional state.
Right.
And from that, we think that we're ready to be with another person in an intimate way.
Actually, I have a couple that, the husband came to me very angry at the beginning that his prior therapist told him that, he is a mature adult, physically, but mentally he's only 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And he got pissed off at her,
Mm-hmm.
and therapy, and they came to me, and I said, well, let's process that. What makes her say that, and what did she see that made her say that?
Mm-hmm.
And so now he's realizing, that why, he's perceived as somebody with the maturity of a 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
Child.
Yes.
Versus an adult of 45 years old and a professional person in his field.
Yeah. And so now he realized that and realized he shouldn't have left her. So now he's leaving you to go back to her.
No, he's not doing that because he says she didn't explain it.
Ah, okay.
But I'm explaining it to her, And, for the first time, he is able to see how he actually has picked up, his parents' attitude
Mm-hmm.
as part of his, what he believed was his authentic true self,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Such as, maintaining silence as a form of, showing his rage towards his wife, and leave it up to her to find out why he is enraged and to go and apologize to him. Right. And I said, well, let's see, how did that happen? Where did you learn that? And then he said, nobody taught me this. I said, okay, well, I'm sure nobody, said to sit down. I want to teach you what to do when you're enraged.
Right.
But let's see what you have witnessed across the years. So it took him probably a good 10 sessions to realize that, his father did that. Right. And then when he realized it, his shoulders dropped, and then he was silent for like maybe about 5-6 minutes. He couldn't believe it. So we just got signaled about our commercial break. Let's talk about this more after a few more minutes.
And
right?
we would love to hear from you,
Yes.
and we would love to hear from you either calling us or check us out on our webpage.
Yes, Facebook. We have a Facebook under Heart-2-Heart, and we look forward for you to like us on the Facebook. And also call us 951-922-3532.
See you in a moment.
Good afternoon. Welcome back from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here at Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio Live. We are talking about couples and trauma and how childhood experiences impact the current, issues within relationship, and how couples are not aware of that, and the impact that these issues are leaving behind. Because when we don't know we have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, we don't know that why we are unhappy. We don't understand it. And we always in relationship believe, for the most part, that somebody else is making me unhappy, somebody else's action is making me unhappy, somebody else's choice of words and approach and attitude, what they want or what they don't want, their availability or the opposite, are what what they are making me unhappy. Where in fact, while all of that may be true, that somebody may have a bad attitude or an all the above, still is the meaning making, is the what we believe about ourselves that causes us to react the way we react when reaction happens, when argument happens. Is the meaning that we give to the situation about ourselves, who I am as a person versus who I have been as a person authentically. So these are the issues that we have been talking about, and we would like to hear from you. 951-922-3532, or call us on our private information. So, Dr. Jaffe, we are talking about, what can be done? What can be done to help couples when they have this type of, issues? So, what I say to them, is what do they know about each other? How curious they are to get to know each other. So to do that, they need to really slow down. That's the first time. Right? When was the last time you listened to each other and allowed the other person to finish their conversation? And for each partner to look at the facial expression, to the voice tone, to the level of hurt, to the level of anger, to the level of pain, and to ask them, tell me how you feel, tell me what made you feel this way. They don't do that. They're not curious about it, but they just want to win the argument.
One of the things that I think is important when you're working with a couple is to ask each person, when you're in conversation with your partner, are you listening to respond, or are you listening to understand?
Yes. Yeah.
Because when partners talk to each other and they're listening to respond, they're listening as to whether they're in agreement or not in agreement. Uh, so, so you and I are talking, and as I'm talking, if you're listening to respond, if I happen to say something that you disagree with, then you respond with your disagreement. If, on the other hand, we're talking and you're listening to understand, and I say something that you disagree with, then you say, "Oh, well, tell me why you believe that, or tell me more why you think that," and then I get to express more of what I'm thinking about and why I'm thinking that way, and as a result, I feel more heard, I feel more understood, and I don't feel attacked.
Right. And attacking is something that the word attack is a vocabulary that is being reported, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. He attacks me. She attacks me. And I ask them, how are you? How do you feel attacked? By what she said, by what he said. His words are heavy. His words are demeaning, or her words are that way, or so we see if a person feels attacked, it's because that's the meaning that they have built for themselves, because words don't attack, right?
Well,
Words, it's how I feel about hearing the words that makes me feel attacked.
well, the way that I look at it is words have objective meanings.
Yes.
If I use the word stupid, for example,
Right.
and I say you are stupid, the objective meaning of stupid is that you're not intelligent.
Right.
Right? That's not a kind thing to say to somebody.
It's not a kind thing
Right,
to say.
right.
No,
So my choice of vocabulary is unkind.
Yes.
Then you do have a choice as to how you respond to that word if I say stupid. So rather, again, going back to what I just said before about listening to respond or listening to understand, if you could say to me, "I'm not stupid, how dare you?" That's listening to respond. Or you could say to me, "Why do you think I'm stupid? And what about me is stupid? And why are you using that word to describe me?" And then we have a conversation going about what my belief is and why I'm using that word. And you can also say to me, "That word doesn't sound good to me. Can you use a different word?"
We can do that, and that to me happens in a couple that they have gone through individuation process, and they are at the middle stage of therapy, where they have been able to kind of understand their emotions, where they have been able to listen to each other. That's when they can have that kind of a healthy communication.
Mm-hmm.
But at the beginning of the therapy, when couples come in, not only they're not in a healthy stage, they're not in a healthy stage of communicating with each other. So they are there to win the argument, and they try to get the therapist to side with one, right?
Yes.
I have seen, I have couples that they say, "What makes you think that I need to listen to her? Can't you see how horrible she talks to me?"
Mm-hmm.
I can see that, according to him, she's talking in a horrible way, and that's his description of horrible way,
Mm-hmm.
right? However, if we kind of put the horrible way aside, if he can see what is it that she's communicating, let's just kind of dissect the conversation and put each component aside and see how, when there is no horrible perspective in the picture, what are the actual words that are being communicated.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
Well, the words plus the feelings.
Yeah, the words, and then the feelings is another part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so we have the words, we have the feelings, we have the meaning making, we have the delivery, we have the attitude, we have the body language, right? So all of those components, they need to be understood, they need to be recognized, they need to be separated, and then bring them together to see how one makes a different meaning from the actual message,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when couples talk to each other, they also deliver their hurt, they deliver their upsets, they deliver their unmet needs, you know. And because they are a couple, the anticipation is, the expectation is that he or she is here to take care of me. He or she, because you know he or she loves me, then they will understand me, right? But they don't feel being understood. They don't feel safe, right? So ultimately, what do? They become kind of defensive towards each other.
Right.
And usually that's how we pick up the classic form of communication, the blamer, the accuser, or
Right.
and all of that, which
Yeah.
that's a different topic that we can discuss it later on.
Well, I think
Yeah.
it's an important piece that you're commenting on, because the ego part of us, you know, we've talked about this before. I'll just briefly comment on it. We're human beings.
Right.
Human is the ego. The ego's job is to make sure that we're safe, physically safe. And the being part of us is our spirit. Some people will call it the soul. That part of us is concerned with love and connection. That part of us is concerned with gratitude, appreciation, and kindness. And so when people are communicating, the ego part of them wants to be right, because to the ego, being right means that they get to win, and win equals survival.
Right.
So I'm right and you're wrong is the ego talking. And then if I say I'm right and you're wrong, your ego is going to say, no, I'm right and you're wrong. And now it doesn't really matter what we're talking about, the content of it, because it's all about trying to win the argument and being right.
Right. The marriage dynamic becomes a battlefield for satisfying your ego and sense of safety.
Right. Your sense of safety. And again, you know, the ego's job is to make sure we're physically safe. But if that is not an issue, if there is physical safety, then the ego expands itself into what it believes is emotional safety. And emotional safety is about being understood or being criticized. And so the more we feel understood, the less defensive we are, and the more criticized we feel, the more unsafe we feel, and the more defensive we are. And when I'm defensive, you perceive my defense as an offense. And when you're defensive, I perceive your defense as an offense.
Yes.
And that's where we end up getting into the fight. It's like
Right.
offense, defense. But we're both being offensive to each other, because we're caring more about being right than we are about understanding and connecting.
Exactly. And in that context, we're not even kind to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Because if I'm only focusing on winning the argument, I will do and I will play and I will bring to the picture every mean of possibilities of winning the argument.
Right.
So in this process, you know, I'm not kind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not kind to me. I'm not kind to anybody else
Because kindness isn't in the discussion.
Yes.
It's about being right.
Right.
Yes.
And then I walk away even more hurt, even when I win the argument, or I believe that I have won the argument.
Well, because winning the argument gives you an adrenaline rush.
Right.
And a sense of satisfaction, like, ha, I really got her this time, or ha, I really got him this time. However, it doesn't satisfy the part of us that wants to feel loved and safe, emotionally and spiritually, and connected with the other person.
Right.
We don't feel closer to the other person, but we feel justified.
That is so true. I compare, you know, give them a metaphor of two people who are playing tennis,
Mm-hmm.
or who are playing, you know, ping pong,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they throw the ball at each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then as they get warmed up, you know, the intensity of the play becomes more until one person finally strikes.
Mm-hmm.
And they both are tired, and then they are both are, and one is happy because they managed to do the strike, and the other one feels, you know, like that they have lost the game.
Right.
So on the next round, they're going to go at each other even more so, right?
Yeah.
Until another person or the same person strikes again. So you see,
Yeah.
it's just it becomes a battleground.
Well, in an intimate relationship between two partners, people who feel as though the other partner is winning will then look for another time and another way that they can get back at them.
They retaliate.
And they retaliate either overtly or covertly.
Yes.
And oftentimes you find that in marriages where the woman feels as though the man is controlling of her and she can control the sex.
Exactly.
That happens a lot in those kinds
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where our book comes in, right?
That's where our book comes in.
You know, honey, I have a headache tonight.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So with that's when we are explaining some of that in our upcoming book, and we will let you know when that's ready, so you can, find where you can purchase that. And we have been working this significantly for the past almost 2 years. And we are, it's a work in progress, but we are so pleased with the outcome of this book. And the book actually targets these type of situations significantly.
Absolutely.
So
not tonight, honey. I have a headache.
I have a headache. So we are about, done with this program, and we thank you for joining us. We would like to invite you to join us again at the hour to listen to another episode of Trauma, Addictions, Codependency, and Relationship with Dr. Robert Bradley and with myself. And we know you have many choices to choose from, and we appreciate that you stayed with us and you choose us. Please call us 951-922-3532. See you at 4 o'clock.
And remember, all you need is love. See you soon.